But here I myself would like to say a few words about that in particular. Isn't man perhaps so passionately fond of destruction and chaos? And there's no disputing that sometimes he's very fond of them. That really is the case. That he himself instinctively fears achieving his goal and completing the building in course of erection? How do you know? Perhaps he only likes the building from a distance and not at all at close quarters. Perhaps he only likes building it and not living in it. Leaving it afterwards aux animaux domestiques, such as ants, sheep, etc. Now these ants' tastes are completely different. They have one amazing building of this type, which is eternally indestructible, the anthill. The worthy ants began with an anthill, and they'll most probably finish with an anthill, which does much credit to their persistence and positive outlook. But man is a superficial and unseemly creature, and perhaps, like a chess player, is fond only of the actual process of achieving his goal, rather than the goal itself. And who knows? No one can say for sure. Perhaps the whole goal toward which mankind is striving in this world consists solely in the uninterrupted process of achievement. In other words, in life itself, and specifically in the goal which, needless to say, can be nothing other than twice 2 is 4. In other words, a formula. But twice 2 is 4 is no longer life, gentlemen, but the beginning of death. At least, man has always somehow been afraid of this twice 2 is 4, and I'm still afraid of it. Let's suppose that man does nothing but seek out this twice 2 is 4 formula, sails across oceans, devoting his whole life to the quest, but never really finding it. He is afraid of it somehow. You see, he feels that once he's found it, there'll be nothing left to look for. When they finish work, laborers at least take the money and off they go to the pub, and end up at the police station. Well, that's a good week's work. Where can man go? At all events, one can observe something uncomfortable about him every time he achieves his goal. He loves progressing towards his goal, but not quite reaching it. And this, of course, is terribly funny. In short, man is a comically fashioned creature, and evidently there's a joke behind all of this. Twice 2 is 4 is nevertheless an intolerable thing. Twice 2 is 4 is, in my opinion, nothing more than a damned cheek. Twice 2 is 4 looks on smugly, hands and hips, stands in your path, defies you. I agree that twice 2 is 4 is an excellent thing, but if we're going to go on praising everything, then twice 2 is 5 can sometimes be a most charming thing as well. And why are you so soundly, so solemnly convinced that only the normal and the positive, in brief, convinced prosperity alone is advantageous to man? Can't reason make mistakes about advantages? Perhaps prosperity isn't the only thing that man loves. Perhaps he likes suffering just as much. Perhaps suffering is just as advantageous to him as prosperity. Sometimes man loves suffering intensely, passionately, and that's a fact. In this instance, it's no good consulting world history. Just ask yourself if you're a man with any experience of life. As for my personal opinion, to love only prosperity is even somehow unseemly. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, smashing something is occasionally very pleasant too. I'm not campaigning for suffering or for prosperity. I'm advocating my own caprice, and that it should be guaranteed me when the need arises. In vaudevilles, for example, suffering is taboo. I know that. In the Crystal Palace, it's unthinkable. Suffering is doubt, negation. And what kind of Crystal Palace could there be when there's only room for doubt? And yet I'm convinced that man will never renounce true suffering. That is destruction and chaos. Suffering, yes, that's surely the sole cause of consciousness. Although I did maintain at the beginning that, in my opinion, suffering is man's greatest misfortune, I know that man loves it and would not exchange it for any gratification whatsoever. Consciousness, for example, is infinitely superior to twice 2 is 4. After twice 2 is 4, of course there'll be nothing left, not only to do, but even to discover. All that would then be possible would be to shut off your 5 senses and bury yourself in meditation. Well, even if you arrive at the same result with consciousness, that is, there wouldn't be anything for you to do either. But at least you could sometimes give yourself a good flogging, which is stimulating all the same. This may be retrograde, but it's still better than nothing.